The black card and the insult had been pulled into the book. Transformed into a second-generation trust fund baby with nothing but a pedigree and a bad reputation. I woke up with a splitting headache, and lying next to me was a woman of breathtaking beauty. She flicked a black centurion card at me and said coldly, "Forget what happened last night." I looked at the card, then at her, and laughed. Interesting. What did she take me for? But what surprised me even more was her identity. She was the sworn enemy of my icy, high and mighty fiancé. My head felt like a convoy of trucks had used it as a speed bump. I opened my eyes to an unfamiliar ceiling and a crystal chandelier, so luxurious it hurt to look at. The air smelled of stale alcohol and expensive, unfamiliar perfume. This wasn't my rental apartment. I sat up abruptly, a sharp ache in my muscles making me hiss. Beside me, the silk sheets shifted. A woman sat up, her cascading black hair covering most of her bare skin. She turned her head, and a strikingly aggressive beauty slammed into my vision. Sharp, almond-shaped eyes, a high-nosed bridge, full red lips. Her gaze was cold, like she was assessing a piece of furniture. Memories flooded in like a tidal wave. Me, a corporate drone who had been pulling an all-nighter for a project last night, had woken up inside a generic urban power fantasy novel I'd mocked 1,000 times. I had become the cannon fodder of the same name, Julian Thorne. A typical waste of space, the only son of the Thorne family in New York. Good for nothing but partying, and the fiancé of the Ice Queen CEO, Elena Vance. A complete doormat of a man. And the woman in front of me. The information in my brain matched instantly. Veronica Sterling, founder of Sterling Media, a self-made tycoon known for her ruthlessness. More importantly, she was the arch-rival of my fiancée, Elena. In the book, the original Julian had gotten blackout drunk after being rejected by Elena yet again, and somehow ended up in bed with Veronica. Afterwards, Veronica had humiliated him, treating him like a gigolo, turning him into the laughingstock of high society. Sure enough, Veronica had already slipped into a silk robe. She pulled a card from her purse on the nightstand and tossed it onto the duvet in front of me. "There's 100 grand in that account." Her voice was as chilly as her eyes. "Forget last night, and don't think you can use this to cling to me. You aren't qualified." The black card looked harsh against the white sheets. Was this the inciting incident? I didn't look at the card. My gaze landed on her face, traveling from her cold eyes to the slight, contemptuous curl of her lips. What would the original Julian do? Probably fly into a rage, out of humiliation, or take the card and leave like a beaten dog. But I wasn't him. I smiled, not a sneer of anger, but a look of genuine amusement. Veronica's brows knitted together. She clearly hadn't expected this reaction. In her eyes, I should be acting like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, not a spectator. "What are you laughing at?" I reached out, sliding my finger across the silky duvet to push the black card back toward her. 100 grand? I shook my head, then looked up at her. "Ms. Sterling, your taste is a little worse than I imagined." Veronica's gaze sharpened instantly, like a leopard that had been provoked. "What did you say?" I said. I leaned back against the headboard, pulling the sheet up casually over my waist, acting lazy and unbothered. "A man who sleeps with you should be worth at least $1 million. 100 grand? Are you dismissing a beggar or insulting yourself?" The air solidified. Veronica stared at me, her eyes drilling holes into me. She was likely calculating rapidly, wondering if this Julian Thorne was the same useless lapdog who trailed after Elena Vance. She never expected that I wasn't that waste anymore. She thought this would be a simple humiliation, a mental victory over her rival's man. She didn't know she was facing an outsider who knew all her cards. "Julian," she said, enunciating every syllable, the temperature in her voice dropping to absolute zero. "What game are you playing?" "Game." I picked up a glass of water from the nightstand and took a sip to moisten my dry throat. "I'm just stating a fact. Besides," I set the glass down with a crisp clink, "you initiated things last night, so you should be paying double." I watched her red lips part slightly in shock and continued. "But forget it. Since you're my fiancé's nemesis, I'll give you a discount. Consider last night a grand opening freebie on the house." With that, I threw off the covers and stood up. I could feel her gaze tracking me like a spotlight from my back down to my legs. There was scrutiny, confusion, and a hint of aroused desire to conquer. I walked into the bathroom and turned on the shower. The hot water rushed over me, waking me up completely. I was in the book. I was the cannon fodder. But the opening hand seemed more interesting than I expected. When I came out of the bathroom, Veronica was fully dressed. A black power suit outlined her explosive curves perfectly. She sat on the sofa, twirling an unlit cigarette between her fingers. Seeing me emerge, She stood up and walked over. A wave of pressure hit me. This woman was a natural-born queen. Julian, she stared into my eyes. What exactly do you want? To go home. I answered crisply. That's simple. She didn't believe it. What else? I buttoned my shirt, my movements unhurried. Did you expect me to demand you take responsibility? I'm afraid my fiancé would tear your company apart. I deliberately mentioned Elena. As expected, a flash of disgust and disdain crossed Veronica's face. Veronica sneered. She wouldn't have the guts. Good to know. I adjusted my collar and waved at her. Goodbye, Ms. Sterling. Here's hoping next time. Well, let's hope there is no next time. I pulled open the hotel room door and walked out without looking back. But I could feel that sharp gaze pinned to my back until the elevator doors slid shut. Inside the elevator, I looked at the handsome but slightly dissipated face in the mirror and smirked. The game had begun. The iceberg fiancé was 9 a.m. when I returned to the Thorne estate. I had just stepped into the living room when a cold voice rang out. Where have you been? On the living room sofa sat a woman. She wore a white dress, her hair swept up to reveal a neck as graceful as a swan's. She didn't look at me, keeping her head lowered over a document on the coffee table. Her profile was as perfect as a marble statue. Elena Vance, my fiancée, the most beautiful woman in New York, heiress to the Vance Corp, a woman whose every fiber screamed nobility and distance. In the original novel, she felt nothing but contempt and disgust for her fiancé. At this moment, she didn't even give me a direct look, and the room temperature seemed to drop a few degrees. I changed my shoes, walked over to the sofa opposite her, sat down, and poured myself a glass of water. No comment. My answer made her hand pause as she turned page. She finally looked up, her beautiful eyes holding no warmth, only scrutiny and impatience. Julian, are you out of your mind again? Do you know how worried our families were because you didn't come home last night? Worried? I took a sip of water and smiled. Worried I died in a ditch, or worried I'd embarrassed the Vance family by dying in a ditch. Elena's expression darkened. She wasn't used to this. She was used to the Julian who wagged his tail and begged for scraps. Usually, if she frowned, the original Julian would panic. If she spoke, he treated it as a royal decree. But now, I sat opposite her, looking at her with a playful gaze she had never seen before. She thought I was just trying a new, stupider way to get her attention. She didn't know the person in front of her had zero interest in her pretty face or her high status. Let's end the engagement. She closed the folder in her hand, placed it on the coffee table, and slid it toward me. This is the agreement. I've already signed it. As long as you sign, the Vance family will give you a settlement large enough to keep you comfortable for the rest of your life. Here it was, the classic scene from a plot. The original Julian would have broken down upon seeing this agreement, kneeling and begging, making a fool of himself and piquing Elena's disgust. I picked up the agreement and glanced at it. Then, right in front of her, I picked up a pen and signed Julian Thorne in the signature block with a flourish. My movements were crisp, without a shred of hesitation. The lecture Elena had prepared died in her throat. She looked at me, and for the first time, her eyes held the same emotion I had seen in Veronica's last night, shock. You sign. I slid the agreement back, leaned into the sofa, and spread my arms across the backrest, completely relaxed. You can keep the settlement. The Thorne family isn't poor enough to need alimony from former wife. Elena's lips moved, seemingly wanting to say something, but not knowing where to start. The shock I gave her today was clearly off the charts. However, I changed the subject, smiling as her face hardened with renewed suspicion. Just divorcing like this makes me lose face. How about we make a bet? I don't need to bet with you. She refused coldly. You do. I cut her off. Give me 1 month. For this month, we remain engaged. After a month, if I can't make you, or rather, make the Vance family, look at me with new eyes, this agreement takes effect automatically. I'll walk away with nothing, and never have anything to do with the Vance family again. Elena frowned. She found this absurd. A waste of space making waves in a month. But if, I paused, leaning forward slightly to stare in her eyes, I succeed. You can't succeed, she blurted out. But if I do? I pressed. Forced to meet my gaze, she looked away for the first time, slightly flustered. If you succeed, the engagement can be renegotiated. It's a deal. I stood up. Where are you going? She asked. To make money. I dropped 3 words and went upstairs without looking back, leaving Elena sitting alone in the living room, staring at the agreement I'd signed, falling into a long silence. She picked up her phone and dialed a number. It's me. Find out where Julian went last night and who he saw. Hanging up, she looked out the window, her eyes clouded with doubt. This Julian, something was different. The forgotten opportunity back in the original owner's room. I threw myself onto the soft king-sized bed. 1 month. For an ordinary loser, it was a fantasy. But for me, a transmigrator with a walkthrough guide, it was enough. I closed my eyes and forced myself to recall the novel's plot. I had read the book as trashy entertainment, so I'd forgotten many details. I had to squeeze out the useful information while my memory was still fresh. Opening, mid-game, in-game. Key plot points flashed through my mind. Got it. I snapped my eyes open. An overlooked but crucial early plot point surfaced. The South Side, a piece of abandoned industrial land. In the early parts of the book, this land was considered garbage by everyone because of rumors about heavy metal groundwater pollution and its remote location. At the time, a rich second-generation heir named Tyler Durst, the book's first minor villain, lost his mind during a gambling spree and was forced to take this land as collateral for a $5 million debt, making him a laughingstock. But just 2 weeks later, the city officially announced that the supposed pollution was a hoax verified by authoritative testing. Furthermore, the new municipal center and the financial tech park were to be zoned right next to that land. Overnight, the value of that wasteland skyrocketed at least tenfold. Tyler used that land to turn his fortune around, paying off his debts and making a killing, which gave him the capital to antagonize the protagonist later. That was it. My heart began to race. This wasn't a game. This was real money. This was the first cornerstone that would let me escape my predicament and truly gain a foothold. The current timeline was exactly. I checked the date on my phone. 13 days before the official announcement. Plenty of time. The only problem was money. I remember the land was valued at $5 million for the debt collateral. To buy it now, it would cost at least that much, probably more. I rifled through the original Julian's memories. This spendthrift spent money like water. The combined balance of his cards was probably less than $100,000 in allowance. Ask my family? With my current standing in the Thorne household, asking for $5 million would get my legs broken by my dad, let alone 50. Ask Elena? Impossible. She'd just mock me. Ask Veronica? That woman was probably still trying to figure out my angle. Asking her for money would be handing her leverage. What to do? I paced anxiously around the room, scanning every corner. Did the original owner have anything else? Wait. My steps stopped in front of a rosewood display shelf. It was filled with various vases and jars, antiques the original owner had bought on whims from all over the place for high prices. To his family and friends, this was just more proof of his stupidity. But late in the novel, there was a brief mention. After the original Julian died, his trash was sold as scrap. One inconspicuous, broken bowl was accidentally discovered by a scavenger expert. That thing appeared to be a Song Dynasty Rue ware bowl. Priceless. I rushed to the shelf, my eyes scanning like X-rays. Found it. In the corner of the bottom shelf, a dusty, unremarkable cyan bowl sat quietly. This was it. I carefully cradled it in my hands, wiping away the dust with my sleeve. The bowl revealed a warm, jade-like sky blue color, the glaze covering a network of fine, ice-crack patterns. Although I wasn't an expert, the novel's description matched the characteristics of the bowl in my hand perfectly. My breathing became rapid. Money. I had it. Intercepting Tyler Durst, taking the South Side land, making the Vance family respect me within a month. All the puzzle pieces fit together seamlessly at this moment. I looked at the bowl in my hand, the corners of my mouth rising uncontrollably. Tyler, Elena, Veronica, are you ready for a brand new Julian Thorne? Where does the money come from? The plan was set. Execution had to be swift. I changed into low-profile clothes, carefully packed the Rue-ware bowl in a box, and prepared to go to the city's largest antique trading market, the Gilded Vault. Not only were there shops, but the top floor housed a private, members-only auction house. I needed cash, massive amounts of liquid capital, as fast as possible. Driving the original owner's flashy red Ferrari out of the gate, I had just turned onto the main road when a white Porsche in 911 swerved in, braking hard to cut me off. The door opened, and a young man in a floral shirt with hair slicked back with oil stepped out, followed by 2 lackeys. Tyler Durst. Speak of the devil. I leaned back in my seat, watching him walk arrogantly to my window, knocking on the glass bang, bang, bang with his knuckles. I lowered the window, and the smell of cheap cologne hit me. Yo, isn't this Master Thorne? Tyler's tone was sarcastic. What's up? Did the beautiful Elena kick you out again last night? So you're out drowning your sorrows? His 2 lackeys laughed in the background. This was the typical face of a minor villain, thinking he was God just because his family had some money. In the book, he constantly envied the original owner's engagement to Elena and made trouble for him whenever possible. I didn't speak, just watched him quietly. To him, My silence looked like cowardice and guilt. Cat got her tongue. He became more smug, his eyes landing on my gas gauge as if he'd discovered a new continent. Oh wow, running on fumes? Can Master Thorn not afford gas anymore? Want me to lend you some? He pulled out his wallet, grabbed a few $100 bills, waved them in front of my face, and tossed them contemptuously into my car. Take it, don't be shy. Consider it. A greeting gift for Elena's future husband. The bills scattered on the passenger seat, mocking me. Cars were already stopping nearby to watch the show. A nameless fire rose from the bottom of my heart. Not because of me, but a residual instinct of this body. The original Julian had been bullied by Tyler for too long. The humiliation and anger were etched into his bones. I took a deep breath, suppressing the agitation. Getting angry at a small fry like this wasn't worth it. I simply reached out, picked up the bills one by one, and handed them out the window. Your money is too dirty. Tyler's smile froze. Julian, what the hell did you say? I said. I looked up, my gaze as calm as a stagnant pond. Your money is dirty. It disgusts me. You have a death wish. Tyler's face turned the color of a pig's liver, raising his hand to strike. Just then, a black Bentley slid silently up and stopped beside us. The rear window rolled down, revealing Veronica's glamorous face. She wore sunglasses, a faint smile playing on her lips as she watched us like she was watching a play. Young Master Durst has quite the temper. She spoke. Her voice wasn't loud, but stopped Tyler's hand in midair. Seeing Veronica, Tyler's arrogance instantly shrank by half. Veronica was known as the Black Widow of the business world. Even his father dared not offend her. Ms. Sterling. Tyler squeezed out a smile uglier than cry. What are you doing here? Veronica's gaze went past him and landed on me. Her eyes were unreadable behind the shades. I have an appointment with Mr. Thorn. Do you have a problem with that, Mr. Durst? Tyler dared not have an opinion, waving his hands frantically. No problem, no problem. Misunderstanding. All a misunderstanding. He glared at me viciously, a look that said, just you wait, then scurried back to his car with his lackeys and sped off. I looked at Veronica and didn't speak. Get in. She was concise. I didn't move. What? Do you need an invitation? Her tone carried a hint of impatience. I unbuckled my seatbelt, grabbed the box from the passenger seat, got out, and climbed into the back of the Bentley. The car started smoothly. Where to? She asked. The Gilded Vault. Veronica turned her head, sliding her sunglasses down her nose to reveal sharp eyes. What are you going there for? Trying to sell that junk you collect? She clearly knew all about my trashy hobbies. Maybe. I leaned back into the soft leather, closing my eyes. Who knows? Maybe one piece of junk is actually valuable. Veronica didn't speak again, just signaled the driver. Silence filled the cabin. I could feel her eyes on my face and on the box I was holding. This woman was like a keen predator assessing her prey. She was curious. From last night until now, all my actions had exceeded her expectations. A loser suddenly becoming tough, mysterious, and even a little interesting. This sparked her interest, and I intended to use that interest. The car arrived quickly at the Gilded Vault. I opened the door. Wait, Veronica called out. Need help? No need. I turned back and smiled at her. But if Ms. Sterling is interested, feel free to come watch the show. With that, clutching the box, I walked straight into the main entrance. I knew she would follow, because the show was about to begin. The auction house incident, the first floor of the Gilded Vault, was an open trading hall, bustling with people. I didn't stop, heading straight for the exclusive elevator to the private auction on the top floor. Sir, please show your membership card. The security guard at the elevator blocked me. I pulled the dusty black and gold card from the original owner's wallet. After verifying it, the guard respectfully opened the elevator for me. Veronica followed close behind. She was clearly a regular here, too. Inside the elevator, it was just the two of us. I didn't expect you to have a membership here, she broke the silence. Got it for fun, I answered casually. The doors opened to reveal a luxurious lounge. Dozens of well-dressed people were gathered in small groups, whispering. The air smelled of cigars and red wine. My appearance caused a small commotion. Isn't that the Thorn family waste? How is he here? Probably stole money from home to try his luck. Shoo, keep it down. That's Veronica Sterling next to him. The whispers weren't loud, but I heard them clearly. I didn't care. Just then, a familiar figure appeared nearby. Elena. She was deep in conversation with a white-haired old man. Sensing my gaze, she turned, saw me, and then saw Veronica beside me. Her brows furrowed instantly, the coldness in her eyes mixing with disgust and confusion. Two women, one fire, one ice. Their gazes met in midair, sparks practically flying. Interesting. As I enjoyed the appetizer of this rare battleground, a discordant voice rang out again. Well, well, Master Thorn, you actually snuck in. Tyler Durst walked over, swirling a glass of champagne, swaying slightly. Behind him trailed a rat-faced, middle-aged man, the manager of this auction. Master Thorn, I heard you want to sell a treasure? The manager smiled fakely. Why not let me appraise it for you first? I glanced at Tyler, knowing they were putting on a show. Sure. I handed over the box. The manager opened it, let out a dramatic huh of surprise, then carefully lifted out the roux-ware bowl, pretending to examine it for a long time. Master Thorn, this is a good piece, he exclaimed with exaggerated excitement. Look at this patina, this shape. Incredible, incredible. The crowd was drawn in. Tyler fanned the flames from the side. Manager Walsh, what kind of treasure is it? Let everyone see. Manager Walsh cleared his throat and announced loudly. Based on my decades of experience, this is very likely a Song Dynasty official kiln green glaze bowl, worth a fortune. A gasp went through the crowd. Elena walked over, looking at the bowl, then at me, her eyes full of doubt. She didn't believe a loser like me had that kind of eye. Manager Walsh, I smiled. Since it's a good piece, put it up for auction. No problem. Manager Walsh thumped his chest. Rest assured, Master Thorn, I'll get you a good price. Soon, the auction began. My bowl was placed near the end as a grand finale item. I watched the first few lots with disinterest, until a Ming Dynasty Schwanda incense burner was brought out. Starting bid, $50,000. I've seen that burner. It's a fake, Veronica whispered beside me. I nodded. Of course I knew it was fake. In the book, Tyler was scammed out of 300 grand by this fake burner right here. 100,000. Tyler raised his paddle eagerly, wanting to show off his wealth and taste. 110. 120. The price climbed. Julian, why aren't you bidding? Tyler looked at me smugly. Out of money? Or do you just not understand what you're looking at? I ignored him. Eventually, Tyler won the fake burner for $300,000, his face beaming with the smile of a victor. Finally, it was my bowl's turn. The next lot is a Song Dynasty official kiln green glaze bowl entrusted by Mr. Julian Thorn. Starting bid, $500,000. Manager Walsh's voice was full of hype. 550, 600. The price shot up. Tyler didn't bid. He just watched me with a look that said he was enjoying the show. Soon, the price hit 1 million, and a wealthy merchant raised his paddle. Just then, the white-haired old man standing next to Elena suddenly spoke. Wait! The room fell silent. Everyone knew him. He was the country's top antique appraiser, Alastair Crane. Crane walked to the stage, put on gloves, picked up the bowl, examined it for a moment, and shook his head. A pity. A pity. Manager Walsh's face changed. Mr. Crane, what do you mean? This bowl is a Qing Dynasty imitation. Crane put the bowl down and sighed. Although it is an excellent imitation, it is ultimately a fake. Value, at most $10,000. Boom. The room exploded. Everyone's eyes focused on me. Pity, mockery, schadenfreude. Manager Walsh's face turned pale instantly. Tyler laughed out loud. Ha ha, trash is trash. Bringing a fake to embarrass yourself. Hilarious. Elena's face was frosty. She felt I had completely humiliated her. Only Veronica looked at me with interest, wondering how I would handle this. I stood up. Under everyone's gaze, I walked slowly to the stage. Mr. Crane, you're mistaken. My voice wasn't loud, but it reached everyone's ears clearly. Crane frowned. Young man, don't pretend to understand what you don't. I really don't understand. I picked up the bowl and turned to the crowd. But someone does. I walked up to Tyler, who was clutching his stomach laughing. Tyler, I held the bowl out to him. Didn't you just spend 300 grand on a treasure? How about we trade? Your treasure for my fake. Tyler looked like he'd heard the biggest joke in the world. Julian, did a donkey kick you in the head? Trade my real treasure for your fake. Just say if you'll trade or not. I stared at him. If you don't dare, you're admitting your burner is fake too. Bullshit. Who says I don't dare? Tyler, agitated by my goading, let the blood rush to his head. Trade then. Today I'll make you lose so hard you'll be convinced. He had his men bring the Schwanda burner over. Under everyone's witness, we completed the exchange. I held the heavy fake burner, while he held my fake bowl with a look of disdain. Now, I looked at Alastair Crane. Mr. Crane, could you please explain to everyone the difference between official kiln and roux kiln? Specifically, what is the most distinct characteristic of roux-ware porcelain? Although unhappy, Crane patiently began to explain. Roux wears the crown jewel. Its glaze is sky blue, The surface has fine crackles known as crab claw veins, and the bottom has tiny sesame seed spur marks. With every sentence he spoke, Tyler's face went a shade whiter, because the bowl in his hands matched every characteristic Crane described perfectly. And as Crane spoke, he stopped too, staring dead at the bowl in Tyler's hands, his eyes full of shock and disbelief. This isn't official kiln. This is roux-ware, he cried out. The room went dead silent. The $15 million bowl, roux-ware. Impossible. The legendary roux-ware. Aren't there fewer than 100 pieces in existence? After the silence, the crowd erupted into intense discussion. Shock was written on everyone's face. Tyler held the bowl, his hands starting to shake, the color draining from his face at visible speed. He wasn't an idiot. He knew exactly what roux-ware meant. Manager Walsh was sweating through his shirt, staring at me like he'd seen a ghost. Elena stood frozen. In her eyes, usually as calm as an ancient well, a storm was raging for the first time. She couldn't comprehend what was happening. She thought this was another farce directed by Julian, but it turned out to be a massive reversal. This loser not only recognized roux-ware, but used an imitation that everyone thought was trash to set a trap, playing everyone like fiddles. Veronica leaned back in her chair, a deep curve on her red lips. Her look towards me was no longer just curiosity, but the burning appreciation of meeting a worthy rival. "Mr. Crane, are you certain?" a tycoon worth billions asked, his voice trembling. Crane rushed to Tyler in 3 steps, practically snatching the bowl. His gloved fingers trembled as he caressed the surface, muttering, "No mistake, no mistake. Sky blue glaze, crab claw veins, sesame spurs. This is absolutely a genuine Northern Song roux-ware. A peerless treasure." He looked up at me, his eyes full of fanaticism and awe. "Young friend, no sir, my eyes fail me. Please accept my apology." He actually started to bow. I reached out to steady him. "Mr. Crane, you're too serious. You were just predisposed to think official kiln." My words gave him an out and told everyone that I knew what it was from the very beginning. Everyone's eyes focused on me again. What was this man, whom they saw as useless, hiding? Master Thorne. Manager Walsh, who had tried to scam me earlier, now approached with a mourning face. "About this." I ignored him and looked at the ashen-faced Tyler. "Master Durst, now, do you think I was kicked in the head? Or were you?" Tyler's lips quivered. He couldn't get a word out. "This bowl is yours now." I patted his shoulder. "Congratulations, you got the deal of a lifetime." No. Tyler jumped like a cat with its tail stepped on. Tray back. My burner is fake. It's fake." In his panic, he exposed himself completely. "Oh," I feigned surprise. "So it's fake. That won't do then." Julian Thorne, never take advantage of people. I took the roux-ware bowl from his hands and shoved the fake Schwanda burner back in his arms. "Here's your treasure back." Tyler hugged the fake burner, watching the bowl in my hand with despair and malice. He knew that today he hadn't just lost 300 grand. He had become the biggest joke in New York. "Mr. Thorne," the billionaire from earlier squeezed forward, face flushed. "Will you sell the bowl?" I offered 10 million. 10 million. The number made everyone gasp. From a fake worth 10 grand to a peerless treasure worth 10 million in just 15 minutes. This thrill was more intense than a roller coaster. I looked at the tycoon and smiled. "Actually, the market value is likely higher, but I need liquidity. $15 million. Take it or leave it. Deal." He didn't hesitate. The transaction happened fast. Funds verified. Transfer complete. When my phone received the notification of $15 million hitting my account, I knew I had won the gamble. The first pot of gold secured. I put away my phone and scanned the room. Those who had mocked me now looked at me with awe. Elena stood outside the crowd. She didn't approach, just watching me from a distance, her eyes complicated to the extreme. Her pride prevented her from crowding around like the others. Veronica stood up and walked gracefully toward me. "Congratulations." She stopped beside me, a hint of a smile in her voice. "Master Thorne, that was truly an eye-opener. We're just getting started." I looked at her. The real show is yet to come. I didn't linger. Under countless complex gazes, I walked out of the gilded vault. At the entrance, Veronica's Bentley was waiting. I opened the door and got in. This time, Veronica didn't ask where I was going. She knew that a Julian Thorne armed with 15 million in cash was going somewhere significant. Taking the South Side land to the South Side. Macro Industries, I told the driver. Veronica raised an eyebrow. Macro Industries? That dying chemical plant? What for? Buying land. Buying land. Veronica sounded like she'd heard a joke. "Julian, you just made 15 million. and you're going to throw it down the drain? That South Side plot is unwanted by even stray dogs because of the pollution rumors. Ms. Sterling is well informed. I closed my eyes, offering no explanation. You know it's waste, I know it's gold. That's the biggest information gap between us. Seeing my confidence, Veronica didn't press further. She simply ordered the driver to go. This woman was smart. She knew when to ask and when to shut up. Her curiosity about me had peaked. The car arrived at the Macro Industries office building. It was even more dilapidated than I imagined, a vibe of depression hitting us in the face. The chairman of Macro, a gray-haired man in his 50s, was waiting at the door. He had clearly received news that a big spender was coming. Master Thorne, welcome, welcome. He rubbed his hands together, fawning. We were ushered into the chairman's office. Someone else was already sitting there. Tyler Durst. Seeing me, he looked like he'd seen a ghost, but his expression quickly turned to malice and schadenfreude. Julian, you're here to buy this garbage land too. He spoke sarcastically. What? Scammed $15 million and in a rush to give it away. He was obviously here to acquire the land. Probably try to pick it up for a rock-bottom price from the nearly bankrupt Macro Industries. I ignored him and spoke directly to the chairman. I want that land. Name your price. The chairman froze, looked at Tyler, then at me, unsure how to respond. My dad said the Durst family offers $5 million. Tyler slammed the table arrogantly. Thorne, you're competing with me? $5 million. That was the debt collateral price in the original book. Hearing $5 million, the chairman's eyes lit up. The land was rotting in his hands. $5 million was a godsend. Master Thorne, look. He looked at me tentatively. I held up one finger. $15 million. The office went silent. The chairman's jaw dropped, unable to believe his ears. Tyler froze too. He thought I was insane. You, how much? $15 million. I repeated, looking at the chairman. Cash. Transfer right now. The only condition is we finish all paperwork today. The chairman nearly jumped out of his chair. No problem. No problem. I'll call the lawyers immediately. Julian, are you crazy? Tyler panicked. He pointed at my nose. Spending $15 million on a wasteland? Are you burning money for fun? It's my money. I'll burn it how I like. I looked at him indifferently, unlike some people who have to beg daddy before they can light a match. You. Tyler shook with rage. He couldn't understand why I'd pay triple the price to snatch garbage everyone avoided. Of course he couldn't understand. His cognition stopped at this is wasteland. Mine was at this is the future city center. We were separated by an insurmountable plot wall. The rest went smoothly. Under the magic of money, Macro Industries' efficiency was astounding. Lawyers, legal departments, all green lights. By that afternoon, the ownership of the several hundred acres of Southside industrial land was officially transferred to my name. When I signed the last document, I felt Veronica, who had been standing behind me, looking at me like I was a monster. She had witnessed it all. She couldn't understand why I was so certain. This confidence, seemingly backed by divine foresight and sparing no cost, made her feel a trace of fear. After finishing the paperwork, I got a call. My dad, Arthur Thorne. You little bastard. Are you crazy? Where did you get the money? Spending $15 million on a wasteland. The Thorne family is humiliated because of you. Get your ass back here immediately. The roar was deafening. I held the phone away until he finished. Dad, don't be angry, I said calmly. In a month, you'll know if your son is crazy or not. I hung up and received a text from Elena. Just one word. Idiot. I looked at the word and laughed. Idiot? Soon, you'll all know who the real idiot is. I put away the phone and turned to Veronica. Ms. Sterling, interested in dinner? To celebrate me becoming an idiot today. Veronica looked at me for a long time before nodding. Okay. The Queen's olive branch the week passed quickly. For that week, I became the laughingstock of New York high society. The Thorne family spent $15 million on a dump. More money than brains. Gets lucky once and forgets his last name. The Vance family must be furious. A son-in-law like that is a curse. Rumors flew everywhere. My dad called me countless times, ranging from roaring to begging me to return the land. The Vance family issued an ultimatum for Elena to handle the farce with me quickly. I ignored them all. I spent every day working out, reading, and studying business cases. This body had been hollowed out by booze. I needed to recover fast. Veronica called a few times, fishing for my plans. I played Tai Chi with her, revealing nothing. The less she knew, the more intrigued she became. Finally, on the morning of the 8th day, a bombshell detonated over New York. City government press conference. Official announcement of the South Side new district plan. The new municipal center, financial tech park, and international convention center will be located in the south side. The news was everywhere. Immediately following, another story was confirmed by authorities. Regarding Southside pollution rumors, environmental agencies and third-party testing confirm it was a hoax. Soil and water quality fully meet urban construction standards. New York's real estate developers and investors went insane. Everyone's eyes turned to me, the guy who spent fool's money a week ago. That wasteland had become the king of lands overnight. Experts estimated the land's value had flipped at least 10 times post-announcement. $150 million. My phone blew up instantly. Countless strange numbers, all seeking collaboration or to buy the land. My dad called again. This time, no roaring. Just a voice trembling with disbelief. Son, the news. Is it true? Dad, I laughed. I told you. 1 month, and you'll know. There's a long silence on the other end, followed by a complex sigh. I hung up and looked out the window. I knew that from today on, no one would dare call me waste again. That afternoon, a red Ferrari pulled up to the Thorne estate. Veronica stepped out. She wore a white suit today, hair in a high pony, looking sharp and dashing. She walked right in without being announced. I was reading on the living room sofa. She walked up and placed a document on the coffee table. Draft Joint Development Agreement from Sterling Media. Her voice lacked the previous scrutiny, replaced by gravity. We invest $300 million. We co-develop the south side. I only want 30% of the profit. I picked up the agreement. Veronica had guts. This condition was incredibly generous, practically shoving money into my pockets. She was investing in me. Ms. Sterling is generous. I put down the agreement. But why should I partner with you? Veronica sat opposite me, crossing her legs, leaning forward slightly, her eyes burning into mine. Because in all of New York, only I, Veronica Sterling, dare to stay by your side when you spent $15 million on dirt. And only I can help you maximize the value of this land in the shortest time. She lowered her voice, adding a hint of seduction. Besides, don't we already have a foundation of intimate cooperation? This woman, a queen in business, but she knew how to use her charm in private. I smiled. I read the agreement. It's good. I pushed it back. But change one thing. What? Profit distribution. I held up 2 fingers. Me 70, you 30? Change it. Me 80, you 20. Veronica's expression shifted slightly. Julian, don't push it. I'm not. I shook my head. Because besides capital, you need me. Without me, you don't even know how to plan this land for maximum value. For instance, building a megamall, there will see foot traffic explode due to the subway zoning. Building high-end condos, there will become exclusive Lakeview properties because of the new park next door. With every sentence, Veronica's eyes brightened. These were details of the government plan, not yet public. She didn't know how I knew, but she saw absolute confidence in my eyes. She knew I was telling the truth. After a long while, she took a deep breath and stood up. Fine. She took a pen from her bag, crossed out the original split, wrote Party 80, Party B20, and signed her name. Pleasure doing business. She extended her hand. I shook it. Her hand was soft but firm. Pleasure. Just then, the door opened. Elena walked in. She saw our joined hands and the glaring agreement on the table. Her face turned instantly pale. The fiancé wavers, the air seemed to freeze. Elena stood at the door, staring at Veronica and me. Her usually impassive face showed visible emotion for the first time. Shock, indignation, and a trace of panic she hadn't even realized herself. Veronica didn't let go. She squeezed my hand tighter, looking at Elena with a victor's smile. Ms. Vance, perfect timing. Julian and I just closed a $1 billion deal. She said the name Julian with intimate familiarity. I pulled my hand back and leaned into the sofa, watching this silent war like an outsider. Elena looked away from Veronica and fixed her eyes on me. Julian, step outside. I need to talk to you. Her voice tried to remain calm, but a slight tremor betrayed her. Say it here. I turned a page in my book. Veronica isn't an outsider. You. Elena's chest heaved. If Ms. Vance is nothing else, I'll be going. Veronica grabbed her bag, walked to my side, leaned down, and whispered in my ear, loud enough for Elena to hear. See you at the old place tonight. I'll be waiting. Then, she pressed a light kiss on my cheek, leaving a lipstick mark. She walked past Elena in her high heels without looking back. The living room fell dead silent. It was just me and Elena. I could hear her trying to steady her breathing. Finally, she spoke, voice hoarse. You and her. When did it start? Probably when you treated me like an idiot. I didn't look up. Elena swayed. She walked over, looking down at me. Julian, what do you want? Do you think this kind of tactic will get revenge on me? On the Vance family? Revenge. I finally closed the book, looked up, and laughed. Elena, aren't you overestimating yourself? I did this for me. You and the Vance family were never part of the equation. My words were like a knife stabbing into her proud heart. She thought everything I did was to get her attention, to win her back. But I was telling her she wasn't that important. The month isn't up. She took a deep breath, clutching at straw. Our bet still stands. And my father wants to see you, she said. Tonight, at the Vance estate. He's throwing a family banquet for you. A banquet? A week ago, they wished I was dead. Now, they were throwing a feast. How ironic. No time. I refused directly. I have a date tonight. Julian, she almost shouted, then suppressed her emotions. You have to come. It concerns the reputation of both our families. Reputation? I stood up, towering over her. When the Vance family forced me to sign the annulment, did you think about reputation? Now that you see I have value, you want to pick me back up? Elena, do you think the world works that way? I was close enough to see her long lashes trembling, to smell her cold perfume. She stepped back, forced into retreat, her eyes full of humiliation and unwillingness. This was the first time she had been at an absolute disadvantage in front of me. Tell Uncle Vance. I wiped the lipstick mark off my cheek casually. If he wants to see me, he can come to the Thorn House himself. As for you, I paused, looking into her misty eyes. Our bet was that I make you look at me with new eyes. I've done that. So, starting today, that agreement is void. I walked around her toward the door. Where are you going? She asked from behind, a hint of pleading in her voice. I didn't turn back. To keep a date with a beautiful woman. The door closed behind me. The banquet showdown. I went to the Vance banquet in the end. My dad forced me. In his words, face is given by others, but respect is earned by yourself. Now that you've earned the respect, you have to round out the face. The Vance family put on a full show of sincerity. Elena's father, Richard Vance, chairman of Vance Corp., welcomed me personally at the door, face piled with enthusiastic smiles, as if he wasn't the man who gave me the cold shoulder before. Inside the hall, the Vance relatives were all present. Their looks had shifted from disdain to fawning awe. This was reality. Elena wore a silver evening gown, standing by her father like a frozen lily. She looked at me with complex eyes, hesitating to speak. I just nodded at her and was pulled to the head table by Richard. Drinks flowed. Suddenly, the banquet hall doors were pushed open. Veronica, in a fiery red dress, sashayed in amidst gasps from the guests. She was like a dancing flame, instantly igniting the atmosphere. Oh my, Chairman Vance, apologies for crashing. Veronica beamed, her words barbed. I heard you throwing a celebration for Julian. As his partner, how could I not come for a drink? Richard Vance's face looked ugly, but he couldn't explode. Elena stared at Veronica, eyes spitting fire. Ms. Sterling is polite. Guests are welcome. I stood up, raising my glass to her. This move poured oil on the fire. Elena's face went even paler. Veronica smiled triumphantly, walked over, and sat naturally in the empty seat next to me. The seat meant for Elena. Julian, I had the architects rush the blueprints for the South Side project overnight. Take a look. She pulled out a tablet, leaning her body intentionally close to mine. I took it, discussing in low tones. One red, one black. We looked incredibly harmonious under the lights. On the other side, Elena in her silver dress stood alone, like an abandoned outsider. The guests didn't dare breathe loudly, stealing glances at this epic showdown. Then, the music started. According to protocol, it was time for the opening dance. Richard cleared his throat. Elena, tonight Julian is the guest of honor. You should share the first dance. A flicker of hope crossed Elena's face. She looked at me. Before I could speak, Veronica laughed. Chairman Vance, that's not right. She stood up, a hand on my shoulder. My project with Julian is worth billions. Every detail we discussed tonight affects the future. I'm afraid we can't waste this dance. She was marking her territory. Two women locked gazes again. Ice knife versus fire. Just as everyone thought I had to pick one, I put down the tablet. I stood up, walked neither to Elena nor Veronica. I walked step by tablet. I stood up, walked neither to Elena nor Veronica. I walked step by step to the corner of the hall. There, a young girl in a waitress uniform was being scolded by the steward for dropping a glass. She was pale, bowing repeatedly in apology. I remembered her. In the book, her name was Mia Brooks, a poor student at the Arts Academy with immense acting talent. Later, she was discovered by the protagonist and became a superstar actress. Now, she was just a waitress earning tuition. I walked up to her. The steward's scolding stopped abruptly. The girl looked up in terror. I didn't speak. I just extended my hand in a standard invitation. Miss, may I have the honor of this dance? The hall went silent. Everyone petrified. Veronica's smile froze. The light in Elena's eyes went out completely. And Mia Brooks stood there, mouth open, overwhelmed. I smiled gently. Don't be afraid. It's just a dance. Trembling, she placed her cold little hand in my palm. I led her to the center of the floor. Under incredulous gazes and the complicated stares of Elena and Veronica, I held this unknown waitress and danced the opening number. I knew that after tonight, my name would be the biggest enigma in New York. But I didn't care. The chessboard had just gained another crucial piece. Alliance and betrayal, the banquet ended unhappily. I drove Mia back to her school and gave her a card. If you want to be an actress, call this number. Watching her run into the dorms in shock and joy, I smiled. A casual move now might yield unexpected returns later. In the following days, I threw myself into the South Side Project. My partnership with Veronica was unexpectedly smooth. She was a genius at work, decisive and sharp. We were together daily, at construction sites or in boardrooms. Through arguments and synergy, a strange understanding grew between us. The look in our eyes shifted from probing to something more complex. I knew this proud queen was lowering her defenses for me. However, the tree craves calm, but the wind will not cease. Just as the project was breaking ground, trouble hit. Tyler's father, the veteran developer Richard Durst, retaliated. He united several major material suppliers to cut off our supply chain. Simultaneously, the bank rejected a key loan application, citing high risk. Supply chain broken. Funds tight. A double blow caused Sterling Media's stock to plummet. Veronica faced her biggest crisis. In the conference room, the atmosphere was heavy. Veronica sat at the head, pale but defiant. Julian, she rasped, I'm sorry. I dragged you into this. Is apologizing useful? I looked at the report. I looked into Richard Durst. His biggest weakness is his disappointing son, Tyler. Tyler. Veronica frowned. What use is that waste? Plenty. I smiled coldly. I remember Richard has an illegitimate son overseas, a thorn in his side. And Tyler recently got obsessed with a Twitch streamer, embezzling huge company funds to tip her. No one knows yet. These were plot points from later in the book. I was using them early. Veronica's eyes lit up. You mean, pull the rug out? I tapped the table. Destroy the reputation of his heir and air his dirty laundry. Do you think Richard will have time to fight us? Veronica looked at me with excitement and a trace of fear. Julian, you're a devil. I have no mercy for enemies. Over the next 3 days, a storm targeted the Durst family. First, evidence of Tyler's embezzlement hit the media. Then, the illegitimate son returned, holding a press conference accusing Richard of abandonment. Durst development stock crashed. Veronica and I quietly bought up the floating shares. Finally, as Richard scrambled, we appeared as white knights, acquiring controlling interest for pennies on the dollar. A beautiful annihilation. We solved the supply issue and swallowed our enemy. That night, Veronica opened a vintage wine in her office. Julian, she swirled the glass, cheeks flushed. I thought I was the ruthless one. Compared to you, I'm a bunny. Is that so? I walked over, drank from her glass, and kissed her. She froze, then responded fiercely. The kiss tasted of smoke, victory, and hormones. When we parted, she looked at me, eyes hazy. Julian, who are you? The man who conquered you. I picked her up and walked toward the lounge. Outside, the New York skyline glittered. I knew from tonight this queen belonged to me. A new hand a month passed in a flash. New York had changed. The Durst Empire had fallen, absorbed by us. The South Side Project was the star of the city. And I, Julian Thorne, had gone from waste to legend. A Midas-touch genius. On the final day of the month, I drove to the Vance estate. Today decided the fate of the engagement. The Vance family was gathered. Richard Vance looked anxious. The relatives sat stiffly. Elena wore a plain white dress, holding a cold cup of tea. She looked miserable. She had watched me and her rivals storm the city. She watched the man she despised become someone she had to look up to. For her pride, this was worse than death. I walked in. Everyone looked at me. I ignored them and went straight to Elena, placing a document on the table. What is this? She asked hoarsely. New engagement agreement. She froze, eyes lighting up. She thought I had chosen her. Hand trembling, she opened it. But as she read, the color drained from her face. It wasn't an equal partnership. It was an unequal treaty. The agreement stated, after marriage, Vance Corp must unconditionally cooperate with Julian Thorne's business layout. Elena herself, aside from duties as a wife, could not interfere in Julian's private affairs, including his private life. It wasn't an engagement. It was a deed of sale. Julian, you. She looked at me like a stranger, tears welling up. Can't read. I looked down at her coldly. The Vance family begged to marry into the thorns. Now, I'm giving you a chance to continue, but I make the rules. I scan the room. You can choose not to sign, but I guarantee within 3 months, there will be no Vance Corp in New York. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement. With my current power, destroying the crumbling Vance Corp was easy. Richard Vance turned pale. Elena's tears finally fell. I felt no pity. You reap what you sow. I placed a pen on the paper. Now, do you still want to annul the engagement? The room was dead silent, save for her sobbing. Outside, a red Ferrari pulled up quietly. The headlights shone like a beast's eyes, waiting for me. I knew that regardless of Elena's choice, my game was just beginning. Story complete part 2. Mandatory separators.